Jeff Turner here, and I'm here to talk about, in this certain video, West Ham United FC. Now, as you may know, all you West Ham supporters out there, we are in fucking trouble. It really, really is a dire situation. And especially for the last 10 years, we've had the lifeblood fucking sucked out of us. Now, I'm here to put the blame on the doorstep of fucking two people, David Sullivan and Karen Brady. Now, you may ask, what am I doing this for? Well, we're going to have to act to try and get these people out. And I'm telling you, the way to do it is sign a petition to get Sullivan and Brady out of this club. Now, you might say, oh, what's the petition do? It might be small. Well, I'm telling you that the small things can grow. And this may be the catalyst that sparks the revolution. I'm old school, but I'm appealing not just to the old school, but to the new school of, well, get away to this fucking along with this way of thinking, sign this petition, and together we may be able to do something. We love you, West Ham. Come on, you Irons. Do it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Claret and Booze. My name's Nick, and I am joined this morning, this sunny Monday morning, by Corral. How are you, mate?
All right, Nick. Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah. Do you know what? Better than I was last night. Okay, I'm going to go on to talk about that in a second. But before we do, as always, if you're new to this channel, as many of you are, please subscribe. It does help us, and don't forget, drop a cheeky like on the video. That's the most important bit. It does really help us. Right, look, you know I've been struggling. You watched a show last night. I've been, been pushing back on this and kind of, and I'm still worried. But you know what? It feels like Nuno's gone on a complete charm offensive now. And if there's one thing that can turn this Frown upside down, it's the news that James Ward-Prowse hasn't even gone on a coach up to Everton. He's
fantastic. Brilliant.
He's been, it's not an injury. He's been left out. It's as if he watched a show last night and he thought, I'm going to cheer Nick up.
Well, no, the truth of the matter is, he lives around the corner from where I live. The truth is, I didn't want to say it, but I went round there and gave him a polite nudge not to travel up with the team. So I think the message got through.
Yes, indeed. And it's just been brought to my attention as well that Nuno Espirito Santo, the Espirito Santo in Portuguese is Holy Ghost. So, we've got the Lord on our side as well. We had that when we had David Moyes. Yeah,
religious powers, the Espirito
with religious power. We know that David Moyes had Jesus on his side, because
he did.
So that's
sometimes
that's good.
He thought he was Jesus, but yeah. He did.
So yes, so I'm feeling much more positive about the football now. Now, this is basically what I've been having to come to terms with, and this has been my worry. We've been pushing throughout the whole summer, since before the summer, for this balled out movement. It was never about Potter. It weren't. No. It was about getting the balled out. So I've been kind of panicking in the back of my mind. There's a lot of people connected with this that West Ham fans will lose faith in the movement to get this balled out. But I don't. I'm going to put. I'm going. Do you know what? I'm going to give West Ham fans more credit than that. I'm going to put my faith in them and hope that nothing can get derailed. Because even, do you know what? It will mean even more, Corral, if we can actually do better on the pitch, but still maintain these protests and even ramp them up and increase the pressure even more. I think that will mean even more. And that proves beyond any doubt then, then we can't get called fickle. You can't have what the people on TalkSport, it was Henry Winter, was basically saying, they're only protesting because they're losing games. It makes it seem meaningless. Whereas if we maintain this, then obviously it does. It just reinforces our position, and it will send a clear indication to Sullivan that you're just not wanted no matter what you do, mate.
Okay, so I was saying that these kind of movements, these kind of petitions, even though they may start off, slowly, they do take time to grow, and they will take their own time to grow. A petition by West Ham will be different to a petition by Arsenal or by Liverpool or Man United, but they all do grow in their own time, in their own way. And I think that this one has taken a little bit more time maybe than you and most fans would care for, but it is growing. And I think the appointment of Nuno is a kind of indication maybe that the heat is beginning to get to the board. And while it may not lead to them, sitting to one side immediately, it is going down that path. And the key thing is to maintain that momentum as much as possible. Now, you said that they're having a bit more of a positive outlook on the pitch. is going to be important, and it shouldn't take away from the fact that the motion has been started, that the message has been sent, that the board are not wanted, and that they are being asked, inverted commas, to step aside. I hope that the majority of the fans, if not all the fans, obviously, keep the reason as to why they signed the petition, and if they haven't, they should have done by now.
Yeah.
But if they keep the reason as to why they signed the petition in the first place in the back of their minds, and they still protest and they still boycott and they still voice their frustrations, regardless of whether the team go on a 10-match winning spree, then ultimately, victory will be the fans. But if people start to think, you know what, Nuno was a good appointment. We've won 6-7 games in a row now. We've drawn a couple. We've lost a couple. The team looks like they're improving. Let's give it some time. Then all of the hard work and effort by yourself, by Hammers United, by Cross Hammers, by, Nicky on Fan TV and any other groups that I've not mentioned will be undone. And you can't forget. And I don't think the majority of fans would forget, to be honest with you, especially like the old school fans,
No.
the kind of the Upton Park kind of crowd that have been going forever will not forget. You may get some that drop by the wayside, but I think the momentum is building, and I don't really see it, wiltering away that quickly.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And what I was going to say, sort of moving on to Nuno, and look, my main concerns about the appointment of Nuno, they do still stand. However, that doesn't mean that it's going to go by my analysis, or even, listen, last night I was that frustrated. I'm laying in bed, and I did this back at the end of the summer when we had Graham Potter. I asked ChatGPT as well. I thought, let's try and get an analysis from you. And I will say the analysis was pretty much 100% bang on from how they said it was going to go. It wasn't going to work. This brand of football types of, it was spot on. So what I did was I gave it some context first and foremost. So I've got to tell you that. So the context that I gave ChatGPT was, West Ham have struggled terribly in the last 2 seasons. Well, they did struggle terribly in the last 2 seasons under Moyes. We were playing a bit of a low block style, and we were conceding a lot of goals. Moyes was released in the summer of 2024, and he was replaced with Julian Lopetegui, who also struggled, who was then sacked in January and replaced with Potter, who was terrible again for another 6 months. The fan base didn't like the style of football under Moyes towards the end, and they didn't like the pragmatic style of Potter.
True.
The team did struggle. We had 4 defeats from 5 this season. We've got goalkeepers that seem to struggle dominating their box, and we've got defenders that are quite error-prone, and we are conceding stupid amounts of goals. So I said, based on this information, how would you expect the appointment of Nuno to do in the remaining 12 games of 2025 up until the January transfer window? Right now, so what has come up and said is that, first of all, managerial style versus squad profile. And it said, Nuno Espirito Santo, like Moyes and Potter, tends to lean on pragmatic counter-attacking football, compact shape, transitions and set pieces. The issue is your squad is ill-suited for this. It says you've got goalkeepers that don't command the box, which is fatal for a team that will sit deep and face lots of crosses. You've got centre-backs, if they're weak in the air and error-prone, meaning they'll be exposed in a low block that invites pressure. And you've got strikers that are aging, injury-prone and limited to short bursts of play. Nuno often builds around a focal striker, i.e. Jimenez for Wolves, which you don't reliably have. And in a nutshell, it says this means that his system doesn't mask weaknesses, it magnifies them.
I mean, this is coming from AI. It's bang on. It's absolutely bang on.
But that was my concern, and it kind of,
it looks like it come to fruition. I mean, I think that there will be an instant turnaround. It can't get much more negative than it was with Potter. And I think anyone that watched the games closely enough saw that the honeymoon period after the Aston Villa win was short-lived, and that Potter was what he was. I distinctly remember the Southampton game, and I refer again to my friend Perry. He got up minute 60, 61 when we were 1-0 up. They'd all but been relegated, I think, bar mathematically one game. And he said to me, "Look, I can't watch any more of this. We're going to draw." And I said, "No, I think we'll hang on for an ugly 1-0 win." And they scored in the 90-something minute. And they
Yeah.
deserved to draw, if I remember. It was obvious from that game. He did the same against Leicester in February. And I remember clearly because I watched that game in an Irish pub when I was in Holland with my old Dutch friends. And they said to me, "I'm sorry to tell you, man, but if this is West Ham, you're kind of shit." And these
Yeah.
these people that had never seen us, play before. So it was obvious that Potter was on a downward spiral. If this guy was defending this much against two of the worst teams in Premier League, it doesn't bode well for him to act any differently against better teams. He had to go. He shouldn't have stayed this long. The manner in which they did it lacked class. But to be honest with you, the guys out.
It was actually disgusting the way they got rid of him.
It was poor, and as a human, you got to think this is not the way that you treat someone. Then you think, okay, the payout and everything else, it's none of our business. It's an extortionate amount of money that he's going to get, and it's ridiculously unfair. But it had to happen. Will Nuno have an instant impact? As I said, I don't think it can get any worse. I think that we will win tonight. I don't know why I'm basing what I'm basing it on. I just have a gut feeling that we'll win.
Bounce. You're thinking a bounce from the players.
Bounce, and I think that the fact that I think there will be more pressure on Moyes, not to us, as you said, and second of all, because he won't want to lose to a manager that's been there for 2 days and a half. I think the dropping of Ward-Prowse is fantastic. I've never fancied him at all in his team.
Corral, you're quite tactically minded, right? So knowing what you know about Nuno, we know he is pragmatic by nature.
Yes.
But do you think in this situation where he's just come into the club and he's trying to sort of win favour, do you think that we will see pragmatic Nuno, or do you think in this game he'll see it as a bit of a free hit where he can go out and try and win favour back with not just with fans, but I think he's won favour with fans, but with the team, try and get them enjoying their football again? How do you think he'll approach it tonight?
In between both. I think he'll sit in between. I think he'll keep to the basics. And I saw a video recently of Mourinho talking about Amorim at Man United, that he has to keep to the basic principles of play. For example, if you're in a defensive shape, you need to stay compact. You need to keep the opposition wide. You need to stay narrow. You need to protect the gap between the lines. So he will, I think, sit somewhere in the middle. Everton is a beatable team. I think we found Crystal Palace on an off day. We could have beaten them last week. I had a feeling they'd beat Liverpool this week. I didn't expect them to be so effective, but I think we could have done that. But I think Everton is a much more beatable opposition. I think the onus will be more on Moyes. I think Nuno will probably say to them, "Look, we're leaking goals. I hope we never see that Hermansen guy ever again. I'd like to hope that Areola can rekindle some of his form. And I think if he gets the basic principles of the defense is crap, we can see too many crosses, we can see too many corners. Stop those first of all. Don't overcomplicate.
Can you just click your fingers and stop that in 2 days?
Yes, you can. You know why? 1, you've got a different voice. 2, you've got a guy that's renowned for being a defensive-minded coach. 3, you've got a different lease of life as a player. 4, he's only identifying 2 main issues that we're facing. Now, it's not to say that those are the only 2 issues that we're facing. Those are the 2 principal issues. We concede far too many crosses, and we concede far too many balls into the center of our box. If you keep your lines compact, if you keep your shape narrow into kind of a pentagonal or hexagonal shape when you're out of possession and the ball is in your half of the field, you make it difficult for the opposition to do anything. Why? Because you've got everyone that's in the middle. He's a manager that believes in discipline, which I'm the same. You need to make sure that your players are disciplined. I think dropping people like Ward-Prowse, Souček being suspended, it gives us more impetus to have a more disciplined on-field 10 players. Why? Because these players are going to be, hopefully, and the language factor should not be ignored. Portuguese, speaks fluently with Paqueta, speak fluently with Fernandes, and maybe there are 1 or 2 the other boys that can speak Portuguese as well. So he's going to have, and Guillaume as well, he's going to have that automatically in his favour. His message will come across.
Apparently, so I heard from a Forest fan, he's fluent in 7 languages.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. Paulus interviewed a really nice guy, seen from Forest Fan TV, and he said the same, that he's fluent in 5 or 6 languages, or he's conversant in 5 or 6 languages, which automatically is fantastic. We've got boys, African boys that speak French and English, so he's going to relate to everyone. Meaning his message will come across easier. He won't have the language barrier that Lopetegui had. Meaning that he's more able to keep it simple and get that simple direction across. You keep a tidy operation out of possession, and then if he can get some impact on the wings when we attack, and if Callum Wilson is not starting, we'll beat them. Now their advantage is they've got tall players. The goalkeeper, while erratic, I rate him. I think that he's a good goalkeeper.
Yeah.
However, he does concede. And I think the last 2 games, the fact that they've lost their last 2 games, and apparently the cracks are beginning to show. The Everton fan base a little bit, unhappy with Moyes, and they're seeing what we saw. I think we could make it 3, and good things happen in 3s, and I think that we could beat them as a result. I think as a side note, the other thing I was going to say, we can't start with Callum Wilson. We can't. We need pace at the front as well. So that means Fulcrook's not the best.
Do you think Marshall?
Yes, without question, because the kid's young, he's hungry, he's got a point to prove, and he's fast. Fulcrook can come on later on to hold that play. Wilson can come on for 20 minutes to give a lease of life, and he's better as an impact player. Take off Somerville because he's still not 100% fit with 2025. Bring on Guillaume. I think that this is the best. Sorry, Nick, what were you going to say?
I'm with you now. I mean, I've gone from a loss to a draw last night to now I feel like we're going to win. So it's matched after getting that news. That's what I mean. I'm really buoyed by James Ward-Prowse not being present, even on the bench. I think that is a massive statement, because for me, what I think a lot of our managers have done, we saw it under Lopetegui when he came in. He tried to maintain the status quo in the team, not upset the apple cart, nothing like that. What I'm hoping that Nuno has done, and looking at his character profile, is that he's come into this squad, this team, spoken to them all, and said, look, whatever's come before, ignore it, because it weren't working. So from now on, there is a clean slate. Whatever you do in the next 2 days in training will determine whether you're in that team or on that bench. Absolutely. And I will be selecting a leader off of this as well. Like I said, this is a clean slate. Forget what came before, because this is literally, and then basically say something like, let the Hunger Games commence, in terms of, going out there and really fighting for your place. That's what I would hope that he would have done in the last 2 days.
To be honest with you, I think that he probably would do, because he can't afford, he doesn't have the same pressure that Potter had on him after his hiatus, but he can't afford for this to be a mistake. Now, again, that Forest fan was saying that he doesn't really last too long, and you said the same last night. He doesn't last too long in his roles. Who's to say that may be different now? We don't know, but you can't think about, in 18 months, come what may, he's going to kick off. Because for all sakes and purposes and all hope, Sullivan won't be there.
But there is something I'd like to say. I think with Nuno, what you don't get what you got with Moyes. I think with Nuno, it's very clear. Once it starts to foul, he almost he gets out. He gets his payoff, but he does a Jose. So when it stops working for him, he won't allow himself to become a shit manager. It almost feels like he identifies, I've reached my ceiling here. I've done my job. It's time for me to go, and that's fine. I'm actually all right with that.
Same. At least you know where you stand. You can't for having integrity. And if he thinks that his time is up at the club, then he'll say so. With any luck, Sullivan and Brady will be long gone by then, and it won't come to that. And he'll have a more amiable chairman or chairwoman at the club. But ultimately, I think that the message will be passed to the players. It should be a clean slate. I think taking the captaincy off Bowen, even though we know he's not a fit captain, and Perry keeps reminding me. Do you
not think that feeds into it though? Do you not think that literally, when you walk in, see, for me, I literally would, if I was him, when you consider the failures of the last 2 managers and Moyes in the last season, so 3 concurrent managers in the space of 24 months have failed with this current setup. I would go in there and say, look, I'm not here to piss anyone off, but we need to start again. We've got to wipe the slate clean, and that is what I would do. For me personally, I would.
it's a fine line. It's a fine line. One, you don't want to upset Bowen. I would, if it were me, I would have a private conversation with Bowen. I wouldn't let it known to anyone whatsoever. I would have a private conversation and say, look, to me from the outside, it looks like you're not feeling the responsibility of being captain, and I'm contemplating giving the captaincy to someone else.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? At least that way you're civil and you're treating him with respect. To strip
Yeah.
him publicly of it and give it to someone else would have a detrimental effect on Bowen. We all believe that Bowen, as much as he's happy to be captain, he loves the
I
responsibility.
think he
And
just likes scoring goals, mate. I think he just likes scoring
I
goals.
think that he would be better off. He wouldn't admit it necessarily, but I think he'd be better
Yeah.
off the captaincy taken off him. But then your other question is, given that Alvarez has gone, and I missed what you said about this last night, is Alvarez able to be pulled back from Fenerbahce? I don't know. But if Alvarez could come back, then he should be nominated captain. But then you ask yourself, he's been missing for half a season down to Potter. Is it really fair for him to be given that captaincy? So if it were me, I'd take it from Bowen if Bowen were happy to step aside, and I
Yeah.
would give it to Paqueta. I would give it to your bromance in Paqueta, because I think he will show that character, and we suspect that it will be his last
And
year at the club.
do you think there's any merit in what I said yesterday? Do you know when I said, because he said it himself, you know, I actually quite like what he said. You see, if we're going to go shithouse, I want to go full shithouse. I want to be a horrible, nasty, disgusting team. That's really what I want. So if you're going to do that, that's what I want. So do you think we're going to start seeing more gamesmanship, more of that encouraged, you know,
No,
because
I don't.
you don't.
I no, and the reason being, Nick, I don't. I mean, I didn't really watch him at Tottenham, but I don't really recall him being that kind of manager at Forest or Wolves. I can't speak on his period at Tottenham because I didn't watch him at Tottenham.
Their players do throw themselves to the floor, you know, a lot.
Do you think apart from Paqueta, we've really got that type of a squad? I don't.
I don't know. I think it all comes down to the culture of the team, doesn't
Yeah,
it? I
but
think
then if that's true, and you've got players that don't normally dive about, all of
they'll
a
get
sudden
caught
start
out.
diving about, don't you think that it's going to start to look fake and referees are going to start booking these players if it's
Yeah.
not in
But
their
yeah,
natural nature to dive about?
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I do think that I think it's very clear what his specialism is, and I do think that to get them, look, we've been too nice for too long as a football club. We have been. I mean, especially under Potter, he stripped out all of the character from this team. It needs to be pumped back into it, and at least now we've got somebody on the sidelines. Look, he's definitely got character. Nuno's definitely got character.
No,
He
for sure.
has.
What he lacks
So
in hair, he has in character.
yeah, absolutely. So what I was going to say to you is, based on the analysis from myself, his appointment, and ChatGPT, what do you think that it could turn out that Nuno will flip all that upside down and he could be a relative success this season? What do you reckon?
Yeah. Yes. One, because it can't get much worse. Two, because I think the players were just bored stiff of Lopetegui and Potter, and they were growing tired of Moyes. So I think it can only be positive. To quote the famous song from the late 80s with the singer that I used to love, Yaz, the only way is up. We can't get much worse. We
Well,
can't.
we can only drop
We
one
can't
more place. We can only drop
Go
one
on
more
then.
place. So no, I said we can literally only drop one more
Oh,
place. We can
sorry.
only go up.
Yeah.
We can
Well,
only go up. Yeah.
listen, had Wolves deservedly beaten Tottenham, we would have been joint bottom. And
Yeah,
if
I
we
know.
lose tonight, we would have been bottom on goal difference. We were only above them because of goals scored. So, I think it can be a relatively better season. I don't see us pushing above mid-table. I don't. But the games that you counted last night leading up to, I think, the Fulham game you missed. So for the next, 2 months exactly, I think it was, it doesn't bode well if we only get 16, 17 points. It's even worse if we get the number
Well,
of points that you
can I stop you there, right? And I'm not lying. Chat GPT. 1 minute. Look, there you go.
again. Don't rely
So
on AI. You give Elon Musk his
no.
ego.
I did this last night to have a little look. So I basically said, well, off the back of that, can you forecast the results for the next games up until Christmas? Right? Can I tell you what it said? So Everton, it says draw or a narrow defeat. Arsenal defeat. Brentford possible draw. Leeds away defeat. Newcastle at home defeat. Burnley at home win. Bournemouth away defeat. Liverpool home defeat. Manchester United away, it's called a defeat. Brighton away, draw or defeat. Aston Villa at home, defeat. Manchester City away, defeat. Projected total points from 12 games, 5 to 7 points, which would put us on 10 max after 17 games.
Yeah, that's worse than what you predicted. The
That is
thing is,
worse. That's worse.
we know our team better than artificial intelligence.
Oh
But
yeah, mate. Yeah, no, I know.
you also have to factor in things like, are these teams going to be coming off a European game? Is Newcastle coming on a Monday night, which they don't like? I mean, last year they proved us all wrong and they comfortably won 4 days before they played the Carabao Cup final. However, there are loads of factors. Liverpool were outplayed the other day by a very, very good organised Palace team who were way better than they looked against us.
Mate, they should have been out of sight against Liverpool.
Easy.
Yeah.
Should have been 3-4.
Alisson had a brilliant game.
He did, but he's a fantastic goalkeeper anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, but to his credit, Slot admitted it.
So let me ask you, right, very quickly. We know that the way that he plays, and it is, look, whether you call it low block or mid block, whatever it is, he typically they play a lot without the ball. His teams, right? So they block. It's not a possession based game. So with his success at Nottingham Forest, where he had a fantastic defence, a brilliant goalkeeper, and a very, very solid and mobile and aggressive midfield. And then you look at David Moyes' success when he had Declan Rice shielding, Dawson, Ogbonna, Zuma. How do you think that he can turn these players into something like that? Even our goalkeeper, how can you mitigate the risks that we're talking about, which is we're not, the goalkeeper, he can't make the goalkeeper be dominant in the air all of a sudden. He can't do that. You can't make our defenders more mobile and not make stupid mistakes. How do you mitigate this, is what I'm trying to say.
It's tough because the squad, and I heard you say this yesterday, and everyone knows Rice carried that team. Even though I didn't really care for him that much, Fabianski was okay, for that last season when he played. Areola was okay as well. Areola's form has dipped. Fabianski, don't know if he's ready anymore. So goalkeeper-wise, and as a goalie, Nuno can probably improve Areola and his awareness and his reactions quicker and sooner than he can the defense. I've never fancied any of the defenders that we've got. Not Todibo, not Mavropanos, not Kilman. Who's the other one?
We don't know anything about.
Who? Igor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was fifth string at Brighton, so forget him. Yeah, Brighton saying he's crap. So to answer your question, with Areola, he might be able to improve him. And bring him back to how he was a few years ago. Defense is a massive, massive problem. The defenders that we've got now do not equate to Dawson on his own. You add those 3-4 defenders, they do not equate to Dawson in effort, in endeavour, in productivity, in heart, in application, in everything, and awareness. They don't. So if you've got a very, very shoddy defence, all of whom are 6'3" plus, none of whom, maybe not Todibo, none of whom can jump.
No.
You've got massive issues. Where you could slightly compensate is the roles that you give to your midfield. Now, he will probably start with Somerville and Bowen on the wings because we know that he likes pace on the wings. Fine. Is Somerville ready to play 90 minutes? Probably not. Is it good to swap him with Guillaume? Yes, or Bowen if Bowen is playing badly. But with Bowen, he could do nothing for 80 minutes, and then in 2 minutes, he switches a game. He's shown that. So you've got that option. Up front is an issue. So you've got to compensate because we don't have the options. So you've got to compensate with the area that we have the most players. I'm not saying the best players, the most players, namely midfield. Potts must play. Full stop.
Yeah.
Potts has to come in. If you've got any way, even if it means paying compensation, you get Alvarez back in Christmas without question. Then it will facilitate Nuno's way of playing.
So between now and then, you're saying that we need to, until we can go out and rebuild that defense.
It's a bandage job. It's a bandage job that you try and do what you can with the tools.
So he's got to limp through till Christmas, basically.
Yes, without question, and he has to make sure that he doesn't flip-flop, as Lopetegui did, as Potter did, with crap like Rodriguez, who I told you from day one, the friendly against Celta Vigo, he's a ghost. You wipe out junk like this. what's that young kid from the academy? Is it Firen? This kid that people are raving about this kid. You give him a chance. I'm not saying start him. You play Potts.
Mate,
You don't.
I went to watch the under-21s on Friday. I went to Rush Green, and mate, there's some really good
Of course
players
there
there.
are.
There's some really good players.
You don't wipe out Potts. You don't discard Ollie Scarles. You don't discard Earthy. Play them 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. You give yourself option, and you consistently play these kids, even if it's a little bit. And it's always for the last 8-10 minutes. They know that their role will be to impact the game for those 10 minutes. So for the previous 75-80, unless people are having stinkers, you keep to the same 2-3 players in the middle. Paqueta, Potts. And then the third one's a question mark.
You got Fernandez. You got Fernandez as well.
I'm not crazy about him. I'm not really sold. He looks better than Mugasa, whatever his name is, from the Lion King. He looks better than him, but we haven't really seen that kid. You could put Guillaume in the middle. You could, and have 3 Portuguese-speaking players in the middle. All of them are technical. You could put those 3.
Do you think one thing that has excited me is that I do believe. My son very excitedly brought me up and showed me some reels of Guilherme communicating and laughing and joking with the manager, with Nuno. Do you think we could? Do you think we could see a launch pad for Guilherme in this? Because he is still hands down the fastest player on our team.
Big time. The kid looked disinterested when Potter played him, and you don't blame him because he was playing him for silly amounts of minutes in deadbeat games that we'd already lost.
Yeah.
You give that kid a start, 2-3 starts from the beginning of games, maybe not necessarily the Arsenal game, but you give that kid 2 or 3 starts, you play him for 60 minutes, see what he's got. You see his motivation will improve drastically. You put Paqueta next to him, it's going to rub off. So even if you don't put Potts until the last 30 minutes or so, and you give him a try in the centre of midfield, you've got someone that's physical. But the only thing is Fernandez or Paqueta more able to do defensive cover than Potts? For me, no. Potts is better defensive cover than those two. So you do it on a game-by-game basis. You could play Fernandez, Paqueta and Guillaume in the middle against Everton. You could play those 3 against Brentford. You could definitely play them against Burnley. But doing it against Arsenal is suicide because they're going to come at you with everything they've got. So you need defensive.
I was told yesterday by somebody that has followed Nuno. I don't know how true this is. Somebody will probably disprove it. But apparently a really effective focal point striker is important to him. He needs somebody, especially when he's playing kind of quite back to basics football. He does need someone that can win the ball in the air and hold the ball up. Apparently, earlier in his career, he's converted a few centre-backs to strikers.
That doesn't surprise me. I think for that reason, he'll start with Fulkrug. I would play Marshall, but I think he'll start with Fulkrug. Look at what he did to Chris Wood. This guy never scored 20 goals in his life, I think, in a season.
Yeah.
This Forest fan with Dan, and I don't want to promote him, but Dan Lawless, I like him. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Yeah.
He's got good content. This Forest fan, who was a good guy and very knowledgeable, said, look, I don't think Chris Wood suits Ange. So he could let him go in January. Do not be surprised if we get another 30-plus striker in January in Chris Wood. Do not be surprised. For the reason that you mentioned, focal point. Personally, I would have him as a backup if we didn't have Callum Wilson. One of them is enough. But we need fast players up front, and we need players that are going to link up with the 2 wide players that we've got that are fast. Personally, I would play 3 fast forwards. I wouldn't put 2 fast wingers in Bowen and Guillaume / Somerville, and then have a tall guy up front that you poke through, long balls to. Like 20 years ago, what's his face? The tall guy that played for the national team.
Andy Carroll?
No. The tall English guy, he does adverts on TV now. 6'5", he plays Stoke, Tottenham.
Crouch. Yeah.
I don't like these kind of players unless you've got someone fast next to them. Then I don't like that style of player. I don't.
I think you can have a foil, providing you've got, like you said, you've got pace up there supporting them. You've got the wide players are inverted and they're quite close and they're feeding off of them. I think that can work. But I think. The other concern, the obvious one, because there is an argument as well for Potter after the Aston Villa game. We can call it a bounce. I think it was just a bounce. But we saw how we played early on with Fulkrug and with Somerville, and there was a lot of freedom there, and they looked good when you had Somerville and Kudus on the right hand side, kind of roasting that fullback. I do think that one of the other issues that we've got is a complete lack of depth, and if we were to, for instance, lose someone who I think is going to be critical to Nuno, is Somerville. If you was to lose a Nuno and maybe lose a Fulkrug, which isn't beyond the realms of possibility, I just feel like, I mean, it's such a poor squad that we've got this year, mate. It is such a poor squad.
It's not super poor. I think defense is the real problem. But you've got. I hope that this means the introduction of Wan-Bissaka again. I don't really rate Walker Peters. I think
he'll be back in. He'll be back in.
If you lose, and this is another thing, and I refer again to this Forest fan. Nuno's teams, the players don't get injured often.
No.
That's going to be down to coaching and training and his medical team that he's got with him. So as soon as they get, initiated into the team and introduced into the team, and I hope that he keeps some of the West Ham players there, like Keane or Potts, in his staff. I would like it if he did have any of our own blood in the team, in his backroom staff. But I understand.
Do you know why that is, though?
Why? What is?
Why his players don't get injured?
No, I'm guessing. I'm guessing that he coaches properly, and he makes sure that
they're organised, but they're organised and they don't press.
Also true. But the thing is, as I think it was Akabusi said one time, Antonio's muscles are different to everyone else's because he presses at certain times that others can't press at. So a person will have their body conditioned to themselves in as far as they'll know when they can press and when they can't. And even though the manager has got a system to say, okay, when the ball goes out to the opposition's right winger, and the Crystal Palace first goal comes to mind, as soon as the ball went out to Liverpool's right winger, their left fullback, who was marking a Liverpool player, I think he was marking Salah, he went out to the touchline. He left Salah on his own. He went out to the touchline. The Liverpool player didn't know what happened, got the ball intercepted off him, and before you knew it, there was a 2-on-1 overload down the wing, and eventually I think he came in and they scored their first goal. So everyone knows their roles, and they have a remit from the coach, but ultimately they're not going to exert themselves at times when they don't think their bodies can take it. So I think that players will be fitter, but even if worst case we lost Somerville, you've got Guillaume that can play. Give Earthy a chance. Give Scars a chance. You could put Scars in left back and put Diouf as a left winger. Worst case.
This is true. This is true.
So we've got cover. Wan-Bissaka could do the same on the right if, God forbid, Bowen got injured. We've got cover. We have to make do with the squad that we have until December. I will not be surprised if he goes to Forest, he takes one or two players, and he might be friends with Ange. He'll take one or two players from them. He'll bring some Portuguese players or Brazilian players that he knows. I'd like to think that they'd recruit some British players as well that know the club, that have an affinity to the club or to the area, and then we can build a squad. We have to limp until the transfer window with the squad that we have. That's not to say that he can't recruit academy. I would give Casey a chance. If you see that the defenders, and Kilman's crap, if you see that Kilman's not cutting you, give that Casey kid a chance. If Torino's attitude still stinks by all accounts, give him a chance. If you're playing three centre-backs, put Wan-Bissaka there. Put Scars onto the right.
I agree. Right, now look, to wrap this one up, we're going to try and keep this because I've got to shoot very shortly.
I've got to shoot as well. I might have to go to Birmingham.
Right, to wrap this up very quickly.
Yes.
What shape is he going to play? The Wolves 3-4-3 or the Forest 4-2-3-1?
Today?
Yeah.
4-2-3-1. He'll play a bit safer. He won't start with 3-4-3. I mean, I would be bold, but I think he'll play a little bit safe, considering that we conceded goals. Everton don't really score, so technically he could. I think he'll play a bit safer with 4-2-3-1.
And result?
West Ham win by 1 goal. And then I go like this to Moyes. I go like this to Moyes. I think we win tonight, and I'm wishfully thinking that we get a draw at Arsenal. Technically, they should beat us. But I said it to you in February. We'll draw with Brentford. We lost by 1, and we'll beat Arsenal at the Emirates.
He should be ideally suited. It's a counter-punch game, so counter-punch game. So we might get something out of that. We might do.
Even if we get 3 points from these 2 games, and we've got the 2-week break, and then the Brentford game, which Brentford did look good against Man U, although I think Man U were a bit hard done by, we can beat Brentford. We can. So, you know, if you include that game, if we can get 5 or 6 points in the next 9 points available, we're on the right.
We're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right.
Path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now that is fine, mate. That is fine. Right, we're gonna wrap this one up there so you can get on your
Brilliant.
toes to Birmingham and I can go and do my bits and
Potentially.
pieces.
Yeah, I might be starting to coach Aston Uni's men's team, and I studied my masters there years ago, so I need to make a phone call to see if I'm still needed to go. But I might start to coach their team as of tonight, to be honest with you. So,
well, best of luck, mate. Best of luck.
Yeah, cheers, Nick. Lovely to see you as always, and hopefully all the boozers enjoy this video. Fingers crossed that we win tonight, or at least avoid a defeat. And you know, we've got to just continue on the upward path. BS out. Get them out.
Yep. Speak to you soon. Come on, you irons.
Speak soon. Take care. Ciao, ciao. Bye.